Hello my friends, you're listening to Ebird Online and I'm back with another review. Today's the one you've been waiting for. It's the one I've been sharpening my nails for. So what I'm going to do today is one of my body language specials, and I'm going to break down KRIS'S body language, and we're going to analyse all of the lies that KRIS has told and all of the gaslighting she's doing to Jeyme. So guys, just before we get going, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much to everybody who's subscribed thus far. But if you've yet to do so, smash that subscribe button and then smash the like button. Thanks guys. Right, without further ado, I give you KRIS and Jeyme. And so we start the tell-all with a trip down memory lane. And we look over the moment when this relationship literally expired. One of the main issues for this couple was one of a financial nature. But guys, just listen to what KRIS says when Jeyme confronts her about this.
It's very difficult for me right now because you promised me, don't worry about money anymore, but you know help me.
You want to talk about money, but the house you got
KRIS,
is
I need
$150 more a month than what I agreed to.
I need talk. I need you to listen to me.
So as soon as Jeyme confronts KRIS about the financial situation, KRIS turns it all back on Jeyme. Jeyme wants to know why KRIS didn't help her financially. KRIS then says the apartment is $150 more a month than we agreed to. Now my point is this. If you'd agreed to pay, say, $400 a month and now it's $550, you would still give Jeyme the $400. The $150 then would be on Jeyme. It's quite simply redundant information. So that's clue number one, that KRIS isn't being entirely truthful. But I do want to illustrate the point with a closer look at her body language. And guys, for me, it's KRIS's eyes that do all of the talking. Firstly, as Jeyme's saying, you said you'd help me, she's looking down but she's nodding her head in agreement. But she's also steadfastly refusing to make eye contact with her until she decides to speak. And as I'm sure you guys all know, it's really common for people who are lying not to be able to look the person they're lying to directly in the eye. And this is what we see here with KRIS. And she decides she wants to cut Jeyme off mid-flow. Jeyme won't let her. She's not having any of it.
I need to talk for first time with you. I'm trying to
Lower
talk.
your voice right now, or we're done.
I like it you say
You want to
that
scream
right
at
now.
me?
And guys, that was more than enough for KRIS. She decided it was over and out, and she raced off, thus not being able to continue the conversation about her financial shortcomings.
I'm done. I'm moving out. I'm getting on my and I'm leaving, and I'm done. You can do whatever the hell you want. I don't care anymore. I don't care.
Okay.
I'm done. Find somebody else to pay your bills.
And so KRIS runs off and Jeyme follows, and when she catches up with her, she says, I'm worried. I think that you're trying to frame this whole thing as if I just wanted you for your money. And guys, listen to this now. What was KRIS's response to that?
Be quiet.
Maybe she say, I love her for your things, or I wanted your things, and this is not true. Your thing is your thing.
I didn't say that one damn time.
I
The
know
whole
talk
time
to you.
I've been
I know
talking.
talk to you.
Ridiculous.
And so let's all be very, very clear about this. KRIS is saying that she at no time accused Jeyme of being a gold digger or of her wanting to be with KRIS just for the money. Guys, just so that we're all clear. So KRIS gave another absolutely piss-poor performance when she was trying to explain back on stage when Sean asked her why she behaved as she did during that argument. Now guys, what I'd like you to pay particular attention to is how slowly she's talking, how considered and measured every single word is, the lack of free-flowing conversation from her. In addition to this, look at her eyes. They're searching around left and right, trying to build the narrative as she goes. She's not just responding to a question, she's thinking, how can I frame this? How can I justify my actions? And that's because she's making it up as she goes along and she doesn't want to put her foot wrong.
I deal with anger by leaving. If I get mad, I will leave. Don't try to stop me. Don't grab me. Just let me leave. I will calm down and I'll come back. Because if you try to stop me, I black out.
That's crazy.
It's just a defense mechanism.
She's right, it's a defence mechanism. It's a defence mechanism against being confronted with the truth. Guys, whenever that happens, she's in danger of blacking out. And so Sean turns to Jeyme and she asked her, what do you make to all of that? And Jeyme simply shook her head and said, I fell in love with a scam. I fell in love with someone who wasn't real. But then she drops the bombshell. She lets the world know she only ever received one rent payment from Chris. Now this in and of itself is no big deal, but if we cast our minds back, we'll remember that she said, let's get an apartment together and I'll cover the cost. And when Jeyme got an apartment, which was $100 a month more expensive, Chris duly complained. And Jeyme said, well, don't worry, I'm working, I can help pay the rent with you as well. And I remember saying to you guys at the time, I've got a feeling when this doesn't work out, Jeyme's going to be left high and dry with a really expensive rent in a part of town she would never have been living in. Fast forward a year or so, and look what's happening. And I hate to say I told you so, but who am I kidding? I love saying I told you so. It's pretty much what I live for. And so Sean asks Chris, is that true? And she said, well, I only made one payment from my bank account, but I gave money to my mother for her to send from her account for the other payment. Okay, so that's 2. There have been 12. What about the other 10, Chris? But also, why would you give money to your mum for her to send it? Why not just send it yourself? It's online anyway. Very, very strange. And in fact, I'm not sure I really believe it. And then Chris continues, during the entire relationship, I've given her more than £10,000. I don't believe it, Chris. I don't believe it for a second. This is a person who had no money to renovate a house which had been burned down several years prior. But yet you've got 10 grand to send to Jeyme. Guys, bear with me whilst I do a little bit of research. And lo and behold, I discover the average monthly salary for someone living in Bogota, Colombia, is $340 a month. So, according to Chris, she sent her the equivalent of 29 months worth of salary. It's not just hard to believe, it's impossible to believe, and in fact I don't believe it, and you shouldn't either. But then when Jeyme's quizzed about it, Jeyme says she's sent not more than $1,150. Again, not that believable. I think she's probably sent her 2,000 or 3,000. I don't think it could be so low, considering the rent was $400. And of course, Chris purchased the wedding dress and shoes and so on. I'm not quite sure. I don't really think so. Then Chris plays what I think is quite a clever trick. Sean asked her, was Jeyme with you just for the money? And she very benevolently said, no, I don't think she was, although I do think she managed to take advantage of the money that I could give her because she knew I was working so hard, working 2 or 3 jobs, working night and day, working my fingers to the bone. And Jeyme took advantage of this and took everything she could. She made it sound as if she were being considered and reasonable when really she was waiting to stick the knife into Jeyme's back. But Jeyme's very upset about all of this and she said no, she promised me she would pay for the rent. I'm having to pay all on my own. I'm now in debt. I've had to pay, and she said I'm still paying 300,000 pesos every single month. Which when I look at this is about $69 a month. In reality, Chris, if you'd have given this girl $10,000, I don't think she'd be quibbling over 69 bucks. I just don't. Anyway, on to the next lie. Chris wants us to believe that Jeyme knew all about her health issues before she got there. I know that she didn't, Chris. Do you forget what you've said? Guys, Chris is a pathological liar because Chris stood in the first ever episode and told her mum, I'm worried about telling her about my narcolepsy. I don't think she knows how bad it is. And as soon as she arrived in Colombia, she told Jeyme all about her car accidents and her neck and back pain. There was a reason why she quite often did it in front of a third party, i.e. the chemist, and later on the doctor. That was because she was delivering the information via that third party to Jeyme. On day 1 you went to the chemist and you stood in there explaining it all to Jeyme, and now you want us to believe that Jeyme knew the severity all along. It's simply not believable. So anyway, back in the studio, Gabe said, I'm upset that you left her with all of those bills.
There's no debt.
Jeyme, is there debt? Are you in
Unless
debt?
she stayed in the apartment for months and months and months, accruing bills, and all she had to do was say something to me. I would have paid to help her move. I would have put stuff in storage. I would have done anything. Still would have.
So guys, this is my favourite kind of lie. Why? It's the contradicting lie. First up, she shouts out, there's no debt. And then she said, well, she lived there for ages and she was accruing bills. Bills accrue themselves. They tend to happen naturally by you living and residing somewhere. But then straight away, she said, I told her, she knew I'd help her with bills. God, I'd still help her now. Oh, but I thought there were no bills, there is no debt. Which is it? Please do let us know. Answers on a postcard. You didn't help her with the bills because you have no money. You sold a dream that wasn't real. And there's one other thing to note here, because she couldn't run out, which is her usual MO, in order to stop Jeyme from speaking, she talked over her 10 to the dozen. Not the slow, stilting talk that we heard earlier when she was trying to create a narrative, but this take-no-breath slick talk, which led to her contradicting herself within 30 seconds. Usually contradicting statements from the same person are a few hours, days, weeks or even months apart. 30 seconds is a new record even for you, Chris. There is no debt. I told her I'd help her with the debt. Which is it? And so guys, at this point there's so many lies flying around and nobody knows what's really going on. They decided to invite the contents of Idiot's Corner into the studio. Please welcome Tim and Veronica. And right away, Tim asked for more detail about the cheating. And Chris said, yep, I caught her cheating on me for a second time. And according to Chris, which again I think is a lie, she caught her cheating twice with the same woman. It's the loosest form of cheating in my mind, just to put this out there, because she was just talking to someone on the internet. I'm not saying that that's not cheating. Mentally cheating is absolutely terrible, of course. But this was at a point when those two had yet to meet. And for all Jeyme knew, she might never ever see Chris. So was it really a relationship for there to be cheating? It's a very valid question, I think. And guys, I'd actually love to know what you think. But Jeyme's nonplussed about all of this and she said, yep, she knows I cheated. Yes, she knows that I was texting this other woman in Texas. It happened once and I accepted full responsibility. And it was also established that it was before, of course, they had met and also before they got married. Chris had texts of all this, which she gleefully showed to first Sean and then Veronica, and Veronica translated. But really I think that there was no need for this, because Jeyme's already said, yep, that was true. But now let's get down to the why.
No, because she disappeared 1 month. And I think the relation is over. And
I ghosted her for 5 days because she was calling me when I was at work 30 to 50 times a day. And they had to take my phone away because she was blowing up my phone so much because I wasn't responding to her text right away.
Again, Chris shouts over Jeyme to literally stop her from being able to answer the question that she'd been asked. And so Jeyme maintains that she ghosted her for 20 days and Chris said she ghosted her for 5 days because she was calling too much at work. Then Chris, why didn't you just call her in the evening? But what I also want you to look at is, again, watch Chris's eyes. Chris is talking now directly to Sean. And as she does so, instead of fixing her gaze on Sean, she fixes it on her most of the time, but her eyes flick away every so often when she's thinking up the next part of her narrative. And again, in terms of body language, she's supposed to be fixing Sean with a stare, which of course is what everybody does when they're trying to convince you of something, because it supposedly mirrors what we do when we're actually telling the truth. But she can't quite manage it. Her eyes flick away at key points. And this is a definite body language tell that somebody's lying. And then of course, in addition to this, there are the exaggerated gesticulations. And guys, let's look very quickly at her tone of voice. Her voice becomes far more high-pitched, which usually happens when people are nervous because the muscles in the vocal cords tighten up. And this tightening is usually a response to stress. The kind of stress you get when you're lying. And so then Chris alleged that she cheated a third time when this same woman liked lots of Jeyme's pictures on Instagram. Again, I'm not sure this is cheating. It's not something that Jeyme was in control of. But Chris is absolutely adamant that she never disappeared for 20 days. It was merely 5 days. But I, for one, am very sure that it was 20 days. As you know, I did a video covering this at the time. But to production, Jeyme said at the time she disappeared for 20 days. Why would she tell that lie in advance of knowing that she would ever need it? At this point, everything was going swimmingly. But guys, it's Jeyme's turn to drop an absolute bomb. And she says she has photographic evidence that Chris was cheating with her ex-boyfriend because the ex-boyfriend sent pictures to Jeyme and she has them. Oh, good Lord, Chris, over to you.
Yeah, I had an ex-boyfriend that I had dated for 5 years. And then she told me that he was sending her all this stuff, so I went to his house and kicked the freaking door into his bedroom. I was like, what the are you doing? Why do you have pictures of me? What are you doing sending them? I said, where's your phone? I crushed his phone and I ran like hell.
Again, guys, do you notice the tone of the voice? It was very, very high towards the end of this statement. So I guess from this we can't tell if the photos were taken or afterwards when she'd started seeing Jeyme. But it's very interesting to me that Kris didn't bother to make that distinction. These were old photos, or these were old videos. No, she just said, oh, I went to his house, snatched his phone, and ran like hell. Again, all of that is irrelevant to the story. Give us the timeline. It's sadly missing. But then something hilarious happens. Kris brings on her mum, I guess to back up her side of the story, and, well, it descends into an absolute shambles. Her mum, who seems like a nice and decent person, I'm not considering that she's lying, said that she sent thousands of dollars over to Jeyme, and she said she sent it by PayPal. Well, guys, Jeyme had her PayPal, and she scrolled down, and she showed every payment that had been made, and one of the payments that had been made was for $550 for the rent, whilst Kris was in Colombia with Jeyme. You can't say that you're giving somebody money when you're living with them. That's not how it works. Jeyme seems to have all her receipts, and Sean asked Kris, have you got proof of the $10,000 you sent over? And Kris said, no, I don't have that bank account anymore because somebody stole my identity. I had to close it down. I've heard it all now. I really have. So you're telling me that you plan to give the IRS the big middle finger when they ask, are you? Absolute poppycock. But luckily for us all, that's the final lie. That's about it. And just before they wrapped up the segment, most of the guys on stage said that they were in support of Jeyme, and it seemed as if Sean was as well. But Debbie stood up for Kris and said that she thinks that Jeyme's manipulative. And so just before leaving, Jeyme said that she thought that Kris had mental health issues, and you know what? It wasn't even a nasty statement. I completely agree with her. Guys, what do you think? Who do you think's lying? Who do you think's telling the truth? Do you think that Sean actually watched the show? I genuinely don't think she did. There were so many times when she could have referenced the past season in support of Jeyme, and she just didn't. But yes, let me know what you think in comments down below, and I'll get on with my next video. Yep, starting tomorrow, I'm going to be reviewing the new season, 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days, so look out for my first video on the new couples. And before I go, please don't forget to like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you very soon. You've been listening to Ebird Online, and I bid you good day.